Okay, today's little project is changing the transmission pan gasket. What I've ended up with, is, and I've already changed 2 quarts through the pan about 6 months ago. The symptoms is when I went to shift gear into reverse, I'd get a noticeable kind of a clunk. And I still have a harsh upshift from first to second, second to third, third to fourth. It's a 722.423 model transmission. This is a 1996 Mercedes-Benz C220 with the 111.961 engine. Anyway, the transmission is a 722.423. It's very common on these 94, 95, and 96 model C classes, the 220s. What I noticed last time when I took this off, and I did not order the part, that was my bad, was now, you can't tell in the video, but this is very hard. It's not to the point where it's brittle yet, but it is not making contact. And I did end up with some gunk inside the transmission fluid, and I'll show you that just a quick second here. I'm not sure how well this is coming out in the sunlight. Let's try to move this so y'all can see this. This is not what you want your transmission fluid to look like. You can probably tell just by the video. This is a dark brown color. What you should end up in a perfect transmission is a nice pink fluid like comes out of the normal new transmission fluid. But this is bad. This is a direct result of having that gap in the transmission. I also think by replacing the gasket, it's going to seal up that air from coming in. And I know I've had a vacuum leak coming into the transmission, which is one of the reasons that I think that I've got that harsh upshift in all gears. After it does warm up, the clunking does settle down considerably. So let's see what happens when I replace this. But again, folks, proper preventive maintenance will do your transmission very much good. Part of your setup in draining the transmission pan is going to be, because you've got limited space for those of you who do not have a lift, you're going to need a long pan like this. You'll want enough room to work under the car, so try not to make it humongous. This does the job for me. This is about 3.5 feet tall by about 5 inches deep. Which is perfect. It catches all the fluid. For those of you who are doing this yourselves, and I applaud you for doing that, a dealer or an indie is going to charge you an arm and a leg to do this. Simple little Saturday afternoon project. It'll take maybe a couple of hours tops to do this. But these bolts, there are 6 of them. And what you'll end up with is these are, I think the torque spec on this is, I believe, 10 or 12 Newton meters. It's basically hand tight plus about a 180. It does not have to be in there tight at all. All you want to do is snug it down so that it makes contacts and compresses that gasket just a little bit. The 3 Phillips head screws connect the filter to the valve body. And of course, every time that you pull a drain plug out of the transmission pan, make sure to replace those. This is original equipment. I'm replacing it with a replacement part, an OEM, which is, I think it's an 8 mil hex. But regardless, you'll find the measurements yourself. What I'm using for this project: new replacement plug and new copper washer. And then for this model year, 96 C220, it's the 722.423 transmission. There's your part number right there. Okay, you can get this anywhere. Mercedes-Benz dealership. I found this on autohouseaz.com. Great source of parts for this vehicle. But I'll be putting this in shortly. The old filter I've already chucked out. Oh, here we go. And this is, you're going to see this if you've got a good quality fluid in there. That should not be brown like it is. It should be just pink. But like I said, that old filter or that old gasket was old, brittle, hard, and it was letting a lot of gunk in there. You can kind of see it on the top of the filter here. But make sure to replace the filter. If you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of problems. All right, there is really pretty limited working space under here, but this is not rocket science. The only thing that makes this difficult is the amount of limited working space under here. But as you can see, it's been about an hour since I pulled the pan and pulled the filter, and it is still dripping. It'll continue to drip. I'm only changing, I am not flushing the entire system. All the fluid is still in the torque converter. I've just drained the pan. With my experience, there's about 2 quarts that come out in the pan. Just make sure you undo the drain plug first, drain as much fluid as possible, and then remove the pan. 6 bolts hold this in. 2 on this corner. I'm not sure. There we go. So there's hole 1, hole 2, and you can figure out the rest. The pan only fits on one way, so it's impossible to mess it up. Just be cautious of these wires here. These electrical, this electrical conduit that runs to the side, on the left side of the tranny, needs to be pulled out of the way carefully. You don't want to disturb anything in there and cause the electrical demons to raise its ugly head. But you can see that the condition of the condition here is halfway decent for as old as the car is. I'm not going to mess with the valve body. There's no reason to do it right now because I'll know better after I replace the gasket and replace the 2 quarts of fluid. Another thing to consider when you're doing this job, replace exactly the amount of fluid that came out of the vehicle. Don't put a half a quart more just to top it off. These transmissions are very sensitive, very specific as far as amount and type of fluid that you put into it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just cleaning everything up. I'll take the bolts, clean those off, make sure the threads are clean. Then I'll replace the filter, and the filter is going to go right here. You can see, well, maybe you can't. I can barely see it. But there are three screw holes. There are 2 ports that the filter goes in. There's the large one, and there is the small one right there. It only fits in one way, so don't be bashful about doing this. I've got mine. I don't have mine on jacks. I have it up on wooden blocks. This seems to work really, really well. It stabilizes the car. The car's not going to go anywhere as long as the back wheels are chocked and you've got the e-brake on. What I'm going to do now, clean everything up, reassemble everything, put it all back together, and that's going to be the project for this Saturday afternoon.